The 2025 Formula One season was supposed to be all about raw speed, intense rivalries, and championship glory. Instead, it's been hijacked by controversy. In a dramatic twist, McLaren and Ferrari stand accused of bending the rules, perhaps even breaking them, before the first race has even begun. And leading the charge, Red Bull, armed with claims that could send shockwaves through the sport. Forget lap times and performance upgrades. The real battle has shifted to the rulebook, with Red Bull alleging that their biggest rivals have found a way to exploit aerodynamic loopholes. What started as whispers in the paddock has exploded into full-blown accusations, turning the build-up to Melbourne into a political minefield. From cost cap controversies to technical directives, Red Bull's pattern is clear. When they are ahead, they dismiss protests as sore loser behavior. When they are behind, they lead the charge in calling out rule-bending tactics. It's a cycle that has repeated itself time and time again, and the latest wave of complaints against Ferrari and McLaren ahead of the 2025 season fits the mold perfectly. Red Bull's technical chief, Pierre Wash, isn't just raising concerns, he's sounding the alarm. It's still happening. Ferrari and McLaren are still using this mini-DRS trick, he declared. His confidence is unwavering, and if he's right, this could be one of the biggest technical scandals in years. When asked whether these flexible wings would spark a major dispute once racing begins, he didn't hesitate. It will be, because it's quite noticeable, he said bluntly. The 2025 regulations were designed to maintain stability rather than revolutionize car designs, but one major tweak stood out, closing the loophole that allowed teams to manipulate the rear wing for a straight-line speed advantage. In theory, that should have been the end of the story. But in Formula One, when a rule is tightened, teams don't stop innovating, they just get more creative in finding ways around it. And according to Watcher, McLaren and Ferrari have done exactly that. Red Bull's engineers have been meticulously analyzing pre-season testing footage from Bahrain, running data through simulations and scrutinizing every millimeter of their rivals' rear wings. What they claim to have found could turn the paddock into a battlefield. Despite the rule changes, McLaren and Ferrari appear to be maintaining the advantages of the now illegal mini-DRS effect. If Red Bull's suspicions prove correct, it would mean that two of the sport's biggest teams are in direct violation of the FIA's latest aerodynamic regulations. The implications could be enormous. Not only would this undermine the FIA's authority on policing car designs, but it could also set a dangerous precedent for how teams interpret future technical regulations. McLaren has never been afraid to push the limits of innovation, but in 2024, they found themselves at the center of a full-blown controversy. It all started in Baku, where they unveiled a rear-wing tweak that had the paddock buzzing. Their design allowed the smaller DRS flaps to remain slightly open even when DRS wasn't activated, effectively creating a subtle but measurable speed boost. On a high-speed circuit like Baku, where straight-line performance is king, this advantage didn't go unnoticed. It didn't take long for rival teams to cry foul. Protests flooded in, with competitors arguing that McLaren had found a way to gain an unfair edge without technically breaking the rules. The FIA, caught in yet another debate over what constitutes a legal innovation versus an outright violation, was forced to intervene. By the end of the season, they introduced a regulatory tweak for 2025, tightening the wording around DRS operation and rear wing flexibility. The goal was clear: put an end to the mini-DRS effect once and for all. Fred Vasseur was vocal about the FIA's delayed response to McLaren's flexi-wing controversy in 2024, which he believed had a significant impact on the championship battle. During the season, Ferrari had been pushing for tighter enforcement of the regulations, but the governing body took months before issuing a technical directive that finally clamped down on the design. When asked about it, Vasseur didn't hold back, stating, "By the time they reacted, the damage was already done. It's one thing to bring new rules, it's another to actually enforce them in real time. We lost crucial points before the FIA finally decided to act." His frustration was echoed throughout the paddock, with Ferrari feeling that McLaren had gained a decisive advantage at key circuits before the ban was enforced. This situation is playing out like a familiar F1 script, one where loopholes get exploited, dominance is established, and only then does the FIA step in with a rule change. Red Bull's latest allegations ahead of the 2025 season follow this well-worn pattern. In Formula One, regulations are rarely set in stone, especially with brilliant engineers constantly pushing the limits of what's legal. And now, as pre-season testing in Bahrain unfolds, it's clear that the FIA's crackdown on flexible rear wings hasn't fully put an end to the controversy. Onboard footage has reignited debate, showing McLaren and Ferrari's rear wings moving more than expected expected. The flex is subtle, but to rival teams, it's a flashing red light. Could this be another clever engineering trick, a way to dance around the latest technical directives? Red Bull knows the FIA's enforcement often moves at a snail's pace. It can take months, sometimes an entire season, for technical concerns to be properly addressed. They saw it happen firsthand in 2024 when McLaren's flexi-wing gave them an advantage for half the season before the FIA finally stepped in. Now, Red Bull is flipping the script, using the same media-driven pressure tactics that Mercedes and Ferrari once used against them, hoping to force the FIA into early action. But here's the real question. Why does Red Bull only demand stricter enforcement when they're the ones playing catch-up? The answer is simple. As long as they're the ones benefiting from a loophole, it's hailed as brilliant innovation. But the moment another team finds an edge, Red Bull suddenly morphs into the sport's moral authority, demanding transparency and fairness. It's the classic F1 cycle. Push the boundaries when you can, cry foul when someone else does it better. With the season opener in Melbourne just days away, tension in the paddock is reaching boiling point. Teams are already demanding immediate FIA intervention, worried that McLaren and Ferrari may have found a way to sidestep the aerodynamic restrictions that were meant to level the playing field. One team boss, choosing to remain anonymous, didn't hold back. Look, we're not imagining things. The footage speaks for itself. Some of these rear wings are flexing more than they should. If this goes unchecked, we're going to see an arms race that nobody can afford, he warned. The FIA now finds itself in an impossible position. Act too soon, and they risk punishing innovation. Wait too long, and they allow an unfair advantage to dictate the season. The entire paddock is watching, waiting, because whatever decision comes next could change everything. Adding more fuel to the fire, Red Bull has now taken center stage in the fight for an investigation. As the reigning champions, they have the most to lose if a competitor gains an illegal advantage, and they're not about to let it slide. Helmut Marko has already hinted that his team is keeping extensive records of potential infractions, ready to pounce at the first sign of FIA inaction. One way or another, this saga won't fade quietly. Will McLaren and Ferrari walk away unscathed, setting a precedent for even more aggressive rule bending? Or will the FIA strike hard, making an example of them before the season even starts? One thing is certain. The battle for supremacy has already begun, and it's being fought in the boardrooms before the cars even hit the track. Do you think McLaren and Ferrari have genuinely found a loophole? Or is Red Bull just playing politics to disrupt their rivals before the season even begins? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.